What does trustworthy AI look like when lives, laws and ledgers are all on the line? Well, today I'm joined by Mark Sherwood, CIO of Wolters Kluwer. And not only that, he's also led big digital transformations at Cisco, Symantec, Nuance, Microsoft, and now a global information company serving healthcare, tax, finance, ESG, compliance and legal teams. And he will argue today that AI at scale starts with two pillars. Go cloud native for speed and flexibility. Put real governance in the business with stewards who own accuracy where decisions happen. And we'll also talk about natural language access to expert content. Because, hey, doctors and lawyers, they ask questions in plain English and they want precise, explainable answers with less hunting and more doing. And yet, predictably, shadow IT will come up today. And Mark sees this as a signal. And if people around IT fix the experience, reduce the friction, and win trust back with a service that feels faster and safer, feels like there's a few opportunities there. And we'll also talk about life at scale, latency, accuracy, security. And looking ahead, we'll also cover AI agents with guardrails, post-quantum clock that keeps ticking forward, and a simple truth that data quality will always decide outcomes. So are you ready to pick one workflow, improve it this quarter, and prove the value? Good answer. Let me introduce you to Mark right now. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. My name is Mark Sherwood. I've been in technology pretty much for my entire working life. Started out a company called FileNet, which most people probably haven't heard of. It got acquired by IBM once upon a time. It was document imaging. In the day, it was super high technology and optical character recognition, which was magic stuff back then, maybe not so much today. I left there and joined Cisco Systems, which at the time was not as big a company as it is now. And I was a software guy. And I was like, why would they want me? Anyway, they tried to turn it into a software company, and they were certainly successful in a lot of ways. And so I was there for a long time. Most of that was on the product development side, and then ended up being convinced by the CIO and the COO to come over to the IT side. Nothing against my fellow IT brethren and sisterin out there, but I was like, I totally refused. I was like, IT is for losers. I mean, that's for failed engineers. I'm not going to go there. But anyway, it turned out to be a great career move, and I've stayed in IT ever since because I enjoy it. I enjoy the interaction with internal customers and external customers. I went to then a security company called Symantec, which has since been purchased and sort of split apart in a number of ways. But that was an opportunity to insource all of IT. It was all outsourced to a different company, and we came in and got to build out a 500 person or so IT organization. And if it went wrong, we only had ourselves to blame because we're the ones that ended up hiring all the people and constructing everything. So, but anyway, it was a great experience. At that point, then I got an opportunity to take on a CIO role at a company called Nuance. Once again, a lot of people probably haven't heard of Nuance. If you're in the medical industry, you potentially have heard of Dragon software. You can download it on your phone. Voice to text, speech recognition. It's actually the company that started Siri, for those Apple users out there that are familiar with Siri. And then we sold licensed, and the people over to Apple, and they've obviously run with it. The Nuance was then acquired because of our healthcare products, was acquired by a little company in Seattle called Microsoft. So that happened a number of years ago. And I realistically expected I'd be off, trying to find a different job. And Microsoft offered me a role. Why, I don't know. I wouldn't have offered me a job. I'd have said, we don't need CIO type people here. We need people who are going to do real work. So was at Microsoft for probably 2.5 years. And enjoyed it. I mean, it's a great company. It's big, 220,000 people or so. And I thought I would rather do something a little bit smaller maybe. And this opportunity at Wolters Kluwer came up. We're about 20,000 people, about $6 billion in revenue. So not a small company, but nowhere near the size of Microsoft. And I run so I'm the CIO, and I run the IT organization, which is probably fairly standard with respect to, we have a software applications group, it's called Enterprise Systems, and we have a hosting and operations and networking team. I've got a quote workplace technologies, which are all the phones and the laptops and the user interface items. Have the security organization, so I have the CISO, and we also have a business relationship management team. These are the ones who sort of speak both languages, both the geeky IT language as well as the language of the business. And they're our main interface sort of between our internal customers, which are the business, and then our IT engineers.
Wow, you have had quite a journey there, and you must have seen so many big changes and disruptions throughout your career. More recently, of course, it's all around AI, and we're approaching, as we record this episode today, 3 years since generative AI, or open, or should I say ChatGPT, officially landed. And when I was doing a little research on you, I was reading that you said that cloud native architecture and strong data governance, these are the things that are now the foundation for scalable, trustworthy AI. So why are those two elements so critical, especially in regulated industries like healthcare and law? You've probably seen so many changes, but why are these so important now, do you think?
Yeah. First off, I'm impressed that you read something I may have said, and I'm honored that you did. So thank you for that. I think the cloud native architecture, I think the cloud brings us such a level of flexibility that we never had before back in the old data center days. Back then it was, you want to upgrade something, you had to purchase new equipment, you had to swap it out. With the cloud, I make a choice on a different SKU and stuff moves and I get billed and we move forward. So that level of flexibility around being able to do what you want to do, change things very quickly, scale up, scale down, scale off, scale up, so much more, just the speed at which we can do that. And I think the level of accuracy that we can do that without having to have the same kind of investments, which was, again, it would take months to do it if it was us, right? To procure the equipment and get it installed and get it cabled and get it up and running and tested and all those things. So I'd say that. And then I think from like an AI standpoint, in terms of where we're really trying to go around data governance, is that data is such a foundational part of AI. I feel like there's a lot of companies that focus. I mean, the AI right now, it's sort of still, even, with the amount of time it's really been around and sort of a buzzword, it's still a bit of the bright, shiny object, I think, and everybody's excited about it. And I think there's a general push to dash towards AI capabilities without really getting an understanding on your foundational elements of data and how important that is, and not building a house of cards with AI that is really going to only be as smart as the data that, it's used to train it. So I do think that governance, and it's not just about a data framework, or in the old days where it was the data lake and everybody's going to jam all the data into one place. Personally, and again, I'm sure there's companies that still sell those things, and I don't want to say they're wrong. I don't think that's necessary anymore. I think the understanding that data lives all over, but we do want to make sure we're getting accurate data, single source of truth data. And I think that really requires data governance as well as what we call data stewardship, which there's responsibility of this data governance within each one of the divisions. So I don't want to be managing engineering or, product engineering's data. I don't want to necessarily be managing all the financial data. I want leaders in those organizations to be part of this governance organization, a part of this governance group that so we've created a number of groups in terms of governance around the company, but trying to keep the level of bureaucracy down, but still maintain a level of focus around governance across the various teams in the company.
And as for Wolters Kluwer, you operate across multiple sectors. So there's a lot of talk around ROI and AI. IT love a good acronym, don't they? But how are you seeing Gen AI delivering more tangible benefits to professionals, from doctors to lawyers, especially in terms of faster, more accurate insights? Because there's so much talk around this. We've seen a lot of things stuck in pilot phase. But when it comes to being in production and making a difference, what are you seeing here?
Yeah, it's funny you say the acronyms. I always joke that we're BOA, big on acronyms here. Every company seems to be so big on acronyms. I think and Wolters Kluwer does have a very broad scope of areas and professions that we do sell into. And I think, whether you're you look at you're a law firm, you're a tax office, you're a financial institution, you are an emergency room, there are expert professionals in each one of those organizations that really rely on and need to rely on trusted data. And I think that's really the crown jewels of the company, is saying, we have this immense amount of data that is built by professionals for professionals. So these are doctors that are creating the content, that we're providing the content. So it is proprietary content, but that's why we view it as our, again, the true value of what we have as a company. Having another layer on top of that, where AI is providing access into that information, to me is like the completion of the puzzle, that says now you've got something where, instead of in the old days where it may have been a click, and you're typing in a word or a phrase, and pick your search engine of choice, not ChatGPT, but some of the older ones. You get it and you sort through all the sponsored content at the top, and then the first three are not exactly what you want, and the last one sort of is, but then you got to type in a different query. Now with we look at Gen AI and the ability to have essentially a conversation, a human conversation, to be able to say, here's exactly what I want, and then to be able to say, in terms of prompts and prompt engineering, that wasn't exactly what I wanted. And then having, AI come back and say, is this what you wanted? Would you like it in a different format? To be able to say, I want a chart. I don't want a graph. I want just that ability to sort through that and be able to access that kind of data. And I think so, sort of on the heels of it, we have a product in the healthcare industry called Up to Date, which is, because it's up to date information. And, huge number of healthcare professionals, doctors and nurses and nurse practitioners that rely on this. But we've just released basically an AI layer on the top of that product set. And I think from a true AI perspective, and where we view the need for something like that, but it's this expert AI, so it's up-to-date expert AI that allows you to still have access to that content, but gives you a much easier interface into it, like having a conversation with this very, very brilliant, smart person who seems to know everything, called the content that we have, as well as the AI layer on the top of it.
And I think one of the big changes in the last couple of years is how we search for information, and natural language queries are becoming almost the preferred way for many to interact with data and locate information or answers to what they're looking for. So what would you say are the biggest breakthroughs that you've seen in making complex information accessible in a way like this? What are you seeing here?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. And I think that, I'll say, even in my personal life, I used to live on search engines. One in particular was a competitor of Microsoft. I won't say who they are, but we all know. It's a situation where now I'll say, in my personal life, I use ChatGPT for everything. That's how I do searches. That's how I get information. It just, the ability to not have to think of, basically like having a conversation with another person and say, here's exactly what I want. And you start to learn more about how to write or speak exactly what you're looking for. I just remember, in search engines, you're typing in some components of what you want. And then again, the work is on you to try and sort through here's, this is results 1 through 10 of 6 billion. And you're like, okay, I don't really want to go through 6 billion results. I just want the information I want. And yet it was harder to do that, because I just felt like it was saying, here's everything. Does any of these look like something you want? Whereas with, I think the capabilities now that we have with Gen AI, and being able to get exactly what you want, being specific. And I think we're all learning to write better prompts as we go forward, for those who are using it in our professional and our personal lives. But I think there's a great opportunity, and I think it's opened up a whole world of people saying, I don't have to learn some like weird user interface. I just talk to it like here's exactly what I want, and it provides it back. And if you say that's not the format I wanted it, it's not the way I want it to look, or I want more information on this, you tell it that, and it comes back. So it seems like the data itself, to me, is not it's foundational, but it's not the piece that's changed. It's just getting access into exactly the data that you want without having to, just sort through it yourself, and having, someone, it's not obviously a person, but seems like a person, sort through it and provide it back to you in exactly the format that you want to see it in.
And going back to acronyms for a moment, I suspect in both of our careers, we've seen IT departments struggle with BYOD and too many SAS tools that people can use from their web browser without contacting IT. But fast forward to present day, shadow IT is a much bigger concern for CIOs. And I'm curious, what strategies have you found effective in building high trust, low friction partnerships with business units that minimize the need for workarounds? Because we've all got access on our phones to so many different versions and platforms, don't we?
We do. And of the acronyms, I always like the BYOB better than the BYOD. For BYOB is bring your own beer. Anyway, I'm sure everybody knows that, but either way, I think shadow IT is, can be an issue in probably every company. It's always been, in every IT organization I've been with. I'd say, in my mind, the responsibility to me is really on the part of IT to be able to deal with shadow IT. To me, shadow IT is there. It's generally a couple of reasons. Number one, it's always been like that, right? It's something that's always existed in a business, and IT never tried to go after it. It's always been there, and the business is generally happy because it's just always been that way. The other one is the business is somewhere along the line made a conscious decision to say, we don't like the way IT is running this, or we think we can do it better. I mean, to me, it's up to the IT organization to be able to go and have a conversation to understand which is it. Is it more, hey, we'd be willing to move it, but we just never really thought about it, or no, we moved it here for a specific reason? We should be able to show that is our core competency, and we can do it cheaper, better, faster, and have the business, with the logic that they have, say, okay, that does make sense, right? You can do it for less money than we're spending. You can take it off of our plate so we can focus. I mean, I want them to focus on what they do best. Let us focus on what we do best. So to me, it's us having that confidence that we can show them we actually can do it. We can provide the level of service, hopefully as good or better than what you're getting today, at a lower cost, and pulling it out of something that isn't their core competency and they probably don't want to be doing in the first place. They're just doing it because they felt like either IT couldn't do it or didn't know how to do it or whatever. But I do feel the responsibility is on IT to start that conversation and to be able to show the sort of evidence that we really can do our jobs.
And when it comes to digital transformations, this is not your first rodeo. You mentioned in the intro there, you've done it at Microsoft, Nuance, Symantec, all before joining Wolters Kluwer. So again, I'm curious, looking back and the journey you've been on, how is your perspective on enterprise scale AI adoption? How has that evolved, or how have you seen that evolve?
Yeah. I think that the speed at which it's happening, I would probably say this every year, but I swear these last couple of years have just been like a whirlwind of, AI, yes, but a lot of other things too. I just think the technology it seems to increase. It's like Moore's law, for chips. They increase the speed at a certain rate, and the cost comes down and everything. It just seems like that from a technology standpoint. I also think that the good part is that the business users, and I think our customers, are so much more technology savvy than what they used to be years ago. I remember doing transformations. We want to say like digital transformation. Digital seems almost like like redundant. People don't do an analog transformation, right? Everybody does it. Every transformation is digital. But I think that the expectations are higher, because people use more technology in their private lives than, just like you said, everything's accessible on your phone. Everything. There's almost nothing that you can't get on your phone. People are just so used to that, where it used to be your technology was the stuff you used at work, and then you went home and you did your thing. Now, certainly technology has surpassed in our personal lives. Sometimes you have a better laptop at your house than you do at work. It's a higher quality or newer or faster processor. But I think the willingness to transform, I've certainly seen that at Wolters Kluwer. It's almost a hunger in the business, where I felt like years ago it was more of it's good the way it is. We don't want to push back. It's a lot of change management is incredibly important. It's always been, but I think maybe even more so today, to get understanding. And I have this thing where I say the silicon-based systems are easy to deal with. It's the carbon-based ones that are hard. So silicon meaning the machines are easy. It's the humans, the carbon-based systems. Those are the ones that are hard to get to change. And I think that as long as they're coming along, the technology generally is the easier part of the transformation. To me, it's the human part that's more challenging, because humans can be totally with you one day and the next day like, nope, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't like it. It's different than what I had. That sort of transformation it's the combo of the two that make it successful. But I would say, to me, the human part is always the hardest part, is getting the people bought in, the change makes sense and we want to continue to go forward.
Yeah, completely agree with you there. And we did start 2025 with a lot of hype and excitement around agentic AI. I think it's a theme that has continued throughout the year. And looking at AI agents in particular, what role do you see them playing in professional services, and what kind of risks or safeguards need to be addressed before they can be trusted in production? Because I'm seeing a lot of things in my newsfeed about, hey, let's launch swarms of AI agents and solve this problem. But the IT guy gets a little bit nervous hearing words like swarms of agents.
I mean, we have given, the keys to a lot of kingdoms to a lot of people around the organization that have never had that. I mean, it used to be, a lot of the technology of the company used to be controlled by IT, and now it's becoming more of a decentralized effort. I do think it's one of the reasons. So we've set up an AI center of excellence, which the company set up long before. I've been here less than a year. I think they set it up 10 or 15 years ago, back in the very, very early days of AI. We've also set up an AI governance group. And that's with people from all across the company. It isn't just an IT thing, or it's not just a product development thing. And it's making sure that we feel we are setting forth certain guidelines around developing like agents, right? Because almost everybody has capability to build an agent. No longer does it require, in the old days you had to be a programmer. Not today, right? Anybody can create agents, which is good and bad, right? It's good, that a lot of people have that skill or the ability to do it, but I think it's dangerous in some cases. But we do, and I would recommend this to any company, is creating that level of governance of some, ethical type things where you're saying, here's things that we should never be creating or building without some level of guidance on there. There's some things that we still have, human oversight on, but that's not going to last. I mean, in the near future, there's many things that won't. But if you're building the thought process of safe, ethical, governance around how you're building these things, we feel like there's less need to, you train people early. I don't want things to go out and then correct people later. Let's educate them and train them before they're building these things. And then as they build them, they're keeping some of these things in their minds.
And another big topic is quantum security, waiting on the horizon. There's both a threat, a lot of concerns around it breaking cryptography and everything encryption that we take for granted, but also an opportunity. So how are you at Wolters Kluwer? How are you preparing for, the potential risks to data security, but also some of the opportunities in a post-quantum world?
Yeah, you have some tough questions. It is a potential scare. Not potential. It's a real scare. I think the scariest part for me is when we first started looking, the view was, even in the EU, the European Union said, hey, in 2035, it's going to be out there, it's going to be everywhere. And then they made a change and went, we think it's more like 2030. And now they're coming and saying it could be as soon as 2028. All of a sudden, these are real dates, right? In 3 months, we're 2026. That means, it could be 2 years away. I think that, and to me, it's different than, for those of us who are old enough to remember Y2K and all the challenges and the worry. The thing about that was we knew when that was coming. It was guaranteed that it was December 31st and then it became January 1st. You knew exactly when Y2K was starting. We don't know exactly. Companies are doing their best and driving in. What we do know is that bad actors are going to get hold of this as quickly or more quickly than anybody else. And we do recognize that, this post-quantum world is going to create, going forward, we can certainly encrypt in a way that will say, okay, in a post-quantum world, we're good. It's all the things that have already been encrypted. That's where there's a challenge, is going back. And that was a lot of, I think, the Y2K stuff, is fixing all the things that were done pre-quantum. So I think awareness is a key part of it, understanding the risks, knowing that it's going to be here, like with AI, it's going to be faster, probably more dangerous than what we expect. And recognizing that we have to be thinking and planning for it like yesterday, and not saying, we got 5 years, we got 10 years. I just don't think we do. I don't know if it's only 2 years out, but I would say, my guess would be 2 to 3 years before there are people that are leveraging that technology. And as soon as there's people that are leveraging the technology for good, there's 10 times that many people who are leveraging it for something that they shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, food for thought there, indeed. It will blindside us all on a Wednesday afternoon when we least expect it.
It'd be Friday evening, if like I do, when it'll happen. Yeah, it wouldn't be Wednesday. That'd be too easy. Yeah. It's Friday night, like
It's
whatever, right
always
before a holiday. Yes, right. And
always
before a
Friday.
3-day holiday. Yes, always.
And finally, something else I know you're passionate about is I read that you said that data quality is essential to successful digital transformation. Makes perfect sense. All too often it is fragmented and siloed, but that's a topic for another day. But what advice would you give to leaders who are excited about AI but might not have those right data foundations in place right now?
As much as it sounds like sort of motherhood and apple pie, it's so critical to have control around your data. I mean, data is always fragmented. I mean, no company is perfect. We're not perfect either, but the recognition that it's so important as you continue to grow with AI in your organization is that as you build your own models, as you create your own agents, is that as these are getting trained, is that you're using accurate data to get this done. And again, we said in the beginning, it doesn't necessarily mean, all the data has to be in one location. I mean, back in the old days, that was sort of the view. I don't think that's the way that you hear about people talking about data mesh and data fabric. I agree with those. So I think there's a much more appropriate way to deal with data rather than having to put it in one big bucket somewhere. But recognizing that getting control over the accuracy and sort of the cleanliness of your data is so critical. AI right now, bright, shiny, everybody wants to go after it, but yikes, it really, it's like, it's a training aspect that says you've got to do some things foundationally, and data is such a big part of that to make sure you get your value out of the money that, every company right now is probably spending on AI.
Sound advice there. And we did start our conversation today talking about your career journey, your success that has taken you to Microsoft, Nuance, Symantec, Wolters Kluwer, so many great companies there. And of course, if we zoom out for a moment, none of us are able to achieve success without a little help along the way. And very often there's somebody that sees something in us, maybe invests a little time and completely impacts our world in ways that they are probably blissfully unaware. Is there anybody that you're particularly grateful towards that we can give a shout out to today?
Yeah, first off, I have to say to my wife, because listen, I wouldn't have done anything without my wife. There is a person, and it's a person I work for at Cisco, and I'll just say his first name was Haas. It was a nickname, not because, again, for those people out there probably never heard of a TV show called Bonanza from a million years ago. But there was a person called Haas Cartwright on there, and he was had a bit of a resemblance to Haas on that show and got that nickname. He was a person I worked for at Cisco for a number of years. And I think one of the things that was key to him is he was like, you have to be true to yourself as a leader. Don't try and be somebody else, because, in certain parts of your career, you're like trying to emulate everybody, and people are saying, don't do this or do this. And he was like, part of it is just recognizing who you are and being proud of that, and leading with that level of comfort, not trying to make people like you and not trying to be like other people, but be like yourself. Make that decision. Everybody has their own sets of skills, and leverage those skills. Don't try and be somebody else, and don't try and change yourself. That's sort of the early days of bring your authentic self to work. And I've always felt that way, is that we should be who we are. Don't feel like you have to be somebody different because, society or your job or whatever says you should be. Don't do it. Be who you are. Anyway, that was one of his key messages. He's just an outstanding leader too.
What a fantastic message. And I love how you've carried that message throughout your career.
Yeah, it sort of stuck with me, yeah.
And he's probably blissfully unaware of the impact that he's had on you. So hopefully he will get to hear this at some point.
So. Yes. Haas, we'll chat sometime soon.
Awesome. And for everyone listening, wanting to dig a little bit deeper about anything we talked about today, we did cover a lot in 30 minutes. Where should they go? Obviously, Wolters Kluwer is a huge website. Anywhere in particular you'd like to point everyone?
Come to my house. Come knock on my door. Come inside. I'll tell my wife that you're here, and we'll sit down and we'll have a drink and come and chat with me. Yeah, my wife probably wouldn't be happy to have that. But I'm out on LinkedIn. I think I can tell everybody. If everybody has questions or whatever, they can certainly email me. People will find out. It's as simple as mark.sherwood@wolterskluwer.com. It's straightforward. I never feel like I have any more information than anybody else does, but I'm always happy to share, ways that work, things that work for me, things that didn't work for me. You can always contact me through LinkedIn. Again, it's Mark Sherwood. You can find the right Mark Sherwood out there. As you said, worked at Cisco and Symantec and Nuance and Microsoft, and you can find me out there. Happy to always, answer questions or issues. anything I can do to help people, I'm always in for it.
Awesome. Well, I will link to Wolters Kluwer website, some of the content there that
Awesome.
is relevant, and to your LinkedIn. And I've just loved chatting with you today. And as I said,
same here.
We covered so much there, didn't we?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry we're coming up on time. Yeah.
Well, we will have to get back in touch next year, see how things are evolving.
Deal.
Maybe even get some 2026 predictions out of you. How's that sound?
I'm in. Yeah. And if you're, I think you may have said, if you're coming out to the States, shoot me a note. We can catch up. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I'll speak with you soon. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks for the opportunity. Take care.
So what is that one thing that you will try after listening to Mark today? Make cloud native your default, put data stewards inside the business, remove friction so shadow IT has nothing to solve, or give people natural language access to trusted content, and then measure things like speed, accuracy and safety as that usage continues to grow. Keep an eye on that quantum horizon as well. Start planning now. Timelines move, but attackers move faster. So if you want to find out more, visit Wolters Kluwer online or connect with Mark on LinkedIn. And also let me know which process gets your first pass and what progress will look like for you in the next month or quarter. But that is it for me. So techtalksnetwork.com, at Neil C. Hughes, LinkedIn, X, Instagram, all the usual places. But that is it for today. So thank you for listening as always. Thank you to Mark for sharing his insights. And I will speak with you all again tomorrow morning. Bye for now.